Hello, in this video session we will be discussing about the program to read non-negative integer number with input validation. Okay, so before getting into the program, we'll first see a simple program, and what it does is that we will read a number and then print it. Okay, now I want to read a non-negative number, but I am simply using scanf statement and I'm using the format specifier %d and I'm storing that value to n. Okay, and then finally I'm printing the value inside n. So if I compile this program and run it, and if I enter 5, it will print 5, it works fine. But if I enter a negative number, it will accept that negative number. Okay, so in order to restrict that, I'm going to write a loop. Okay, so initially we have to execute these two statements, so I'm going to give a do while loop. So do, then I'm starting the do while loop here, then finally I'm closing this, and condition that I'm going to check is do this statements while n is less than 0. That means when n is less than 0, prompt the user to enter a non-negative number again. Okay, that's what we are doing here. So do these steps till we get a non-negative integer. Okay, now if I save this and if I compile this and run this, and if I give -3, then since it is less than 0, it will again ask to enter a non-negative number. If I give -4, again this will be the case, and if I give 5, then it will accept that number. Okay, so if we are giving integer numbers, this will work. It will accept only non-negative integer numbers. Now I'm just going to run this program. Consider that I'm giving something like 8 odd. Okay, so users may give some data like this accidentally. At that time, it should handle it right. It should display a message to the user that you should enter a non-negative integer, etc., or some message to the user. But in this case, if I give it like this, then what happens is that in the scanf statement we are giving %d and then we are reading it to n. Since the compiler is seeing a here, it will simply doesn't read that value. So what happens is that it will contain the garbage value. Here the garbage value is 32765 and it is greater than 0, so it will be considered. Okay, so we should write statements to handle inputs. Okay, so if we are getting input like this, we should write statements to handle these inputs. Okay, so first of all we want to check whether a given number is a proper non-negative integer or not. Okay, that is, we have to check whether, if we consider it as a string, all its characters will be digit, right? Okay, so we are going to write, or we are going to introduce some functionality so that we can handle data which is containing characters other than digits. Okay, so what we are going to do is that we will be accepting a string, then we will check all the character in this string whether it is a digit or not. If not a digit, then in that case we can say that it is not a proper integer. Okay, so we will be doing, or we will be performing input validation like that. Okay, and for that I have wrote 3 functions. Okay, we will just discuss about these 3 functions. So the first function is isDigit function. So the input, it will be receiving a character. Okay, you can give character, int or short. Okay, all works same way. Anyway, here I'm just going to input a character, and the output will be 0 if the ch is not a digit and 1 if the ch is a digit. Okay, so the algorithm goes like this. So it will be accepting a character, and then it will check the ASCII code of character whether ch ASCII code is less than character 0, or you can give ASCII value 48, and for 9 you can also give ASCII value 57. So what it is checking is that whether the character is less than 0 or greater than digit 9. Okay, so single quotes means it is a character. If you want to give the ASCII code, you can simply give 48. So it will check whether this character is not lying between 0 to 9 inclusive. In that case, it is not a digit and it will return 0, else it will return 1. So I'm just going to write a function equivalent to this particular algorithm. Okay. Okay, so this is a function. So it will be just accepting a character, and if it is not in the range of 0 to 9, then it will return 0, otherwise it will return 1. Okay, so it is like a function. We are asking the function whether this character is digit or not, and if it is a digit, it will reply with 1. If it is not a digit, it will reply with 0. Okay, so that is one function. Then the second function is str non-neg int. So it is just to check whether the given string is non-negative integer or not. Okay, and for that we will be accepting an input, a string. Okay, and the output can be either 0 or 1. 0 in the case if it contains any characters other than the digits 0 to 9, or 1 if it is a non-negative integer. Okay, so the algorithm goes like this. So this is str non-neg int of str is actually accepting str, a string. Then we have start I equal to 0, and then we will be traversing through each character in this string str till the null character is encountered, and then inside that we will check whether each character is digit or not. Okay, so here each digit of str of I will return 0 if it is not a digit. In that case, we will get to know that a particular character in str is not a digit. In that case, that particular string is not a valid non-negative integer. In that case, we can simply return 0, saying that it is not, the string is not containing a non-negative integer. Okay, if that is not the case, then we can just increment the value of I, and then we can continue this process until this condition becomes false, or we can say that until it reaches null character. And till it reaches null character, if all the characters checked were digits, then in that case this statement won't be executed, and then when this statement becomes false, the control will come here and then it will return 1. Okay, so we can simply say that is str non-neg int is a function which returns 0 if the string is not containing, or the string is not a non-negative integer, and it will return 1 if the string is a non-negative integer. Okay, that it means it only contains digits 0 to 9. Okay, so I'm just going to write a function for that. Okay, the function is str non-neg int. Okay, okay, so this is a function. It accepts a string. So initially I equal to 0, then we will extract each character and we will check whether it is a digit or not. Okay, so not is digit means if it is not a digit, then return 0. There is no point in looking further in the string. Since we have found a character which is not a digit, we can simply return 0, which will exit from the function and returning the value 0. And if we go through all the characters in the string str and all are digits, finally it will encounter a null character and it will exit from this loop, and control will come here and it will return 1. Okay, so that is the functionality of isstr non-neg int. Okay, now we have one more function str to int. Okay, in case the string is actually a containing only digits. In that case, we can convert that particular string to integer. Then for that, this function is used. So this str to int will be accepting a string, and we assume that it is only containing digits 0 to 9, and the result will be integer converted from this particular string. Okay, and the algorithm goes like this. Initially, first statement is start, then I equal to 0, n equal to 0. Then we will be getting each character from the str and then converting it into a number. Okay, so consider that I'm just going to get this 123. Okay, and I'm going to convert that. Okay, so initially n is 0, so n to 10 will be 0, 0 plus here this 1 will be a character, so it is an ASCII code. The ASCII code of 1 is 49. So since we want to convert it into integer, we have to subtract every digit with ASCII code of 0, that is 48. Okay, so here 49 minus 48 will give 1. Okay, so initially the value of n will be 1. Okay, then after that, here in this position, it is not a null character. Okay, sorry, before that I is incremented by 1. Then after that, when we check this str of I, that is str of 1, not equal to null character. So what it does is that n equal to n to 10, so it will become 10 plus str of I minus character 0, that is 2, character 2 minus character 0, that is 50 minus 48, that will get 2. So 10 plus 2, we will get n as n equal to 12, and then n is incremented to 2. Then we will check whether str of 2 not equal to null character. Yes, str of 2 not equal to null character. So again control will come here. And then we perform n equal to n 10. So n becomes 120 plus str of 2, that is character 3. So character 3 minus character 0, that is 51 minus 48, that will be 3. So 120 plus 3, we will get n equal to 1, 2, 3. Okay, then I will be incremented, so I becomes 3. Then when we check str of 3 not equal to null character, here we will be having a null character, so it will exit from this particular while loop and it will return the value of n, that is integer 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's how this particular function str to int works. Okay, so I'm just going to write function equivalent to this in C programming language. Okay, so this is a function. We will be getting value from, we'll be accepting a string, then we'll be extracting each character, and then we'll convert it to integer, and when the next character comes, we will just multiply it with 10. Okay, multiply the initial integer value with 10, and then we will add the corresponding characters integer value, and this process will continue till all the characters are converted to integer, and then finally we will be returning that particular integer value. Okay, so this is our functions. You can write all of this in a single function, but it would be better if you write functions with atomic functionalities in a single function. Okay, so that for functions which require these atomic functionalities, we can just simply provide these functions. Okay, that is one advantage. And okay, so we have given this. So here we have this condition to check whether a particular string is non-negative integer or not. So before going to check that, I'm going to declare a variable for getting the string input. Okay, so I'm just going to give total. So here I'm going to read a string, that is strn. Next I will prompt the user to enter a non-negative integer till it is a non-negative integer. So instead of checking whether n less than 0, I will be giving not is str non-neg int of str. Okay, so what it does is that this will check and tell whether it is a non-negative integer or not. The given string is non-negative integer or not. Okay, so if it is not a non-negative integer, then in that case it will again prompt the user to read the prompt the user to give input. Okay, and it will do this process until it gets a proper non-negative integer as string. Okay, so once we get a proper non-negative int stored inside this strn, we can just convert it into integer by simply using the function str to int of strn. Okay, so this function will simply convert this into integer. Okay, so this is the modification that we have made. Okay, so now I'm just going to save this and I'll just compile this to see whether this works correctly or not. I'm going to clear this. Okay, so I'm just to compile this. So there is an error. Okay, subscribed value is neither array nor pointer nor vector. Okay, so while str, that is at line 49. So here, okay, so I forgot to give here string. Okay, so we are accepting a string. There is one error. So argument of str. Okay, okay, because we were passing an array and here I haven't given the proper brackets, that's why we got this error. Okay, so I'm just going to clear this and then I'm going to compile this. Okay, no errors. Then I'm just going to run this. Okay, it is asking for a non-negative integer, and if I give something like minus 112, it won't accept it. If I give AA234, then again it won't accept it. If I give 23SW3, it won't accept that. But if I give 23456, then it will accept that. Okay. So we have wrote some functions, some simple functions. First one is to check whether a digit is character or not. Then we use that function inside this is string non-negative integer or not to check each character in this string is digit or not. Okay, and if every character in this string is a digit, then this function will return true. In that case only we will exit from this while loop, and after that we will convert that particular string having a non-negative integer to integer by using this function. Okay, so that's how we perform input validation. And one more thing that we have to see is that functions that we are using here can be reused. So this is a typical example of modular programming, and so we have just done this program to input a non-negative number. Now consider that you want to input a integer number. Okay, now for a number to be an integer number, okay, so I'm just going to write this. So if it is an integer number, then 12 is an integer number, minus 12 is an integer number, right? So in case of integer number, if we consider the first character can be a digit that is from 0 to 9, or it can be a negative symbol. Okay, and the remaining portions are same as our non-negative integer. Okay, so I'm just going to define a new function to check whether a character is negative sign or not. Okay, for that I'm going to write a function. Okay, so here if the given character is not a negative sign, then return 0. If it is a negative sign, then return 1. Okay, and then to check whether the given string is integer or not, we will be just modifying this code. Okay, I'm just going to copy and then paste here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that, okay, first of all I'm going to change the name of the function is string integer it is accepting a characters array or a string. Usually I equal to 0. So first I want to check whether the first character is either a negative symbol or a digit. So first I am going to write if. So I am going to check first, is negative sign, that is the first character is negative sign, or is the first character a digit. Okay, that is digit of str of I. Okay, if either of this condition is true, then we can say that it is an integer, right? In the case of first character, can be either negative sign or digit. Okay, but if this condition is false, then if this condition is false, then we should return 0, right? Okay, so what I have done is that it will check whether it is a negative sign or a digit. In that case, it can be a integer, but if it is not the case, that's why I have given not, that is, if it is not a negative sign or digit, in that case we should return 0 since it is not an integer. After the first character is checked, then we can increment the value of 5 by 1. Okay, then for the remaining characters we will be checking whether it is digit or not. We are doing the same step that we have done here. Okay, and if all these cases are satisfied, then finally it will return 1, indicating that that string is an integer. Otherwise, if the value returned by function is 0, then we can say that it is not a proper integer. Okay, now one more thing that we can observe here is that the functions that I used here, like isDigit. Okay, so these are actually the functions that I used here as well, right? So this is one advantage of using writing functions with atomic functionalities, that we can reuse this. Like I have said earlier, this is a typical example of modular programming, and we can use or reuse previously written functions to achieve more complex functionalities. For example, here we have validated whether a string is non-negative integer or not. Here we have validated whether a string is an integer or not, and we can use similar functionalities to check whether a string is proper floating point number or not. For example, for a floating point number, if we consider a floating point number, it can be minus 12, it can be 12, it can be minus 12.5, etc. So it can have first character either a negative sign or a digit. For that we can use the function isNext sign. Also this isDigit function can be used, and next thing is that it should contain 1 point. Okay, so in between number it can contain 1 point, a maximum of 1 point. So we can apply all these conditions, and since some of these functions are already written, we can simply use these functions inside the function which we are using for validating a string for floating point number. Okay, so this is one advantage of using modular programming. Okay, so you can also try out to write a function to validate floating point number. The points to remember is that the first character can be either negative sign or digit, then the remaining will be digits, and in between these digits it can contain a point, a maximum of 1 point. Okay, so those are the things that you have to keep in mind. Okay, so in this session we mainly looked at how we can modify our program so that we can validate the input that is given to our program, and we have seen how we can filter or how we can check whether the given number is, or how we can accept a number string and then check whether that string is non-negative integer or not, and based on that, if it is a proper non-negative integer, we can simply convert it to integer by using the function str to int. Okay, so just go through these functions and then try out these programs and try to implement your own functions to validate floating point numbers, etc., to get a better idea of these concepts. Okay, thank you.